This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 416 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and TotalSaddleFit.com. Today we've got a great discussion about half pass with trainer/judge Susanne Hamilton. Karen Iceberg talks to us about feeding for horse shows, and of course we've got a great trainer tip.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with our producer, Coach Jen.
Hello.
Do we have to wish you a happy birthday last week?
I don't remember. Last week is so long ago. Gosh.
Okay,
We're all like,
never mind.
Did I have a birthday? Really? That happened?
Well, I did too, so that's okay.
Happy birthday, Philip.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, gosh, sorry, Philip, I forgot to text you.
That's
Happy
okay.
birthday.
It happens on a very busy Kentucky weekend is my birthday.
It is always during Derby, and I always forget to text you. Happy birthday, Phil. Actually, I think I texted you happy birthday with a bourbon.
You did.
So,
yeah, well,
I was thinking of you.
Birthday, and you said happy birthday, so that was good. No.
Yeah, so I'm not the worst friend on the planet. Well, how are you guys today?
Doing good. The weather's turning around. We're getting ready to horse show.
I love it.
Life is good. Yay.
Life is good. It's so exciting. I love it.
All of Canada is getting happy again.
That's right. Everybody can defrost.
Yes.
The whole country. I love it. And happy Mother's Day to all the mommies out there. And actually, pretty much all of us are mommies because we take care of four-legged creatures all the time. Dogs, cats, horses. I consider myself a mommy. Husbands, sometimes four-legged creatures. So happy Mother's Day to everybody out there for sure. And to my mom and Phil's mom, they're super supportive of us in the show. And so we wanted to give them a good shout out today for sure.
Nice job. Good idea, Reese.
Hey, well, we also
get forgotten a lot because
I know, she's lovely. She's such a nice lady. She's lovely. It made you the writer you are today. My mom too, or had a big part in it. You know.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Moms were driving forces in our careers, and thankfully my mom is still there for me to, hey mom, I need someone to drive with me to Florida. Okay.
Yeah, she does that with you, huh? That's pretty fun.
She's very good about driving me places, and she's part truck driver, so she's really good at it. I'm like snoozing away, and my mom, like, it's like you give her some chocolate and she can go for hours. It's amazing. So big shout out to them for all they still do to us, even as we're adults and have our businesses. We couldn't do it without our moms. So I hope all the moms out there have a wonderful Mother's Day. And in the horse shows that are going on, the moms that are probably horse shows.
A lot of moms braiding. My mom used to braid for me.
My mom, my mom still braids for me, Phil. Let's to be real here. I'm not going to lie. So I love it. Well, we've
got a great show this week, don't we?
We do, and we're still doing this really wonderful segments on the movements, and we've had such great feedback, and we like to continue to have them. And if anybody has specific questions about the movements that we've covered, we're happy to go back and review them as always. We like listener and feedback. So today we've got a great commercial. Right after this commercial break, we're going to come back and talk about half past.
Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant that supports healthy muscle and nerve function by limiting cellular damage. Green grass is the best source of vitamin E for horses, but most horses don't spend enough time grazing to meet their needs. Hay, grain, and winter pasture provide little to no natural vitamin E. To ensure your horse's vitamin E requirements are met, choose Elevate. Elevate contains a readily available source of natural vitamin E. Elevate is cost-effective and easy to feed. To learn more about Elevate, visit the Kentucky Performance Products website at kppusa.com.
Well, continuing on this very popular series, we are so happy to have Susanne Hamilton. She is a large R judge and an FEI rider, trainer, USDF gold medalist. Susanne, welcome to the program.
Hi, Reese.
We're so happy to have you
Nice
back.
to be here. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Well,
That's a great program.
You do such a great job from a trainer's perspective and a judge, which is something that's fantastic. So tonight we are talking half pass. That's our topic for tonight. So let's get started. When you start thinking about as a trainer, so we're wearing the trainer hat first. When do you start half pass? What are some things that you're looking for? All the good stuff about half pass.
Well, that really varies between, what I have, if I start my horse in the half pass or if I start my rider in a half pass. For either, what has to be really solid is the throughness, the connection, the bend, shoulder in should be very solid, travers should be very solid, as this is just as half pass is just really variation of the travers. It's executed on a diagonal line instead of on the wall. So the bend, the connection, that all has to be really solid for the horse. If you have a horse that's really good at half pass and you have a rider that, you want to train your rider to do that, it's sometimes very confusing for these guys to go from, you practice your travers, your renvers, your shoulder ends, and you go into half pass, and suddenly they turn into pretzels. And and
the
so,
bad pretzel.
Yeah, and it's really I think it's so easy to just overthink the half pass, where you keep it simple, you keep the thought of travers in the back of your head. You're in a good place.
So what is the first thing that, so you're sitting on your horse, he's confirmed kind of second level, we're thinking about third level, we're going to start training a little bit of half pass. What do you do? How do you start?
Again, I work them, if they're moving off my leg, they can move in the travers. Again, it's so important. Travers, that the horse is able to bend around my inside leg. I will then start, I myself will just pick a diagonal line if the horse is solid in the travers and take it on. Half pass is, it should be slightly bent around the inside leg of the rider, so for more freedom, mobility of the shoulders. And the forehand should always be slightly in advance of the quarters, because as you know, that the front of the horse is slightly narrower than the quarters, and so you want to have that little bit of fraction more in the right direction of the movement, which is forehand. Then you fix that by taking the forehand slightly first. Definition is the outside legs pass and cross in front of the inside legs. You want the horse looking in the direction where it's moving. And for me, the most important thing is that you keep the same cadence and balance throughout that movement. Once you're solid at the travers at the wall, you pick an imaginary line. Say H to F. You turn. I usually put my horse in a slight shoulder forward position. I let him look at the letter that I'm half passing towards, and then add the travers to that line.
Yeah, that makes
that was a mouthful,
sense.
Right?
No, that makes absolute sense.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, because I think the biggest thing that the horses start to do is sort of a leg yield and start falling towards the opposite wall.
Yes.
So I always started thinking a little bit, instead of, we know that travers should be a little bit four track, but when I start my half pass on the diagonal line, I want to make sure that I do it a little bit three track with very little angle, so that two things, I can keep that horse moving forward, and I can keep that horse off of my inside leg. So if I'm coming from the right rein, my right leg is going to be the inside leg.
When I have a new person, when I have this new person in the half pass, and we have just worked the travers, which you said is the 35-degree angle, what I do is I have them get the nose, the neck, the shoulder onto the diagonal line and just add what they can handle at first
angle,
into that
travers angle.
Towards that same angle.
Yeah, because the biggest thing is just the horse collapsing and falling sideways. I see that. I mean, I think that's the most common thing in training the leg yield, is that the horse just kind of straightens out where the chest starts facing A or C, and the horse just crossing over, and the rider going, "Yeah, good boy." Because I mean, everybody thinks that the half pass is more crossing. But if you do that, you tend to lose your forward ability and lose the entire balance of what you're trying to do. You know, I always try and tell people that.
And they're judging a lot.
Yeah.
And that really is lack of bend through the rib cage.
Yeah. Is that a half pass is a bending exercise, not a sideways going exercise, right? The only sideways going exercise ever is leg yield. The rest is all bending. So again, if you can keep a minimal angle, you can make a larger angle, but it doesn't work in the reverse. If you can't keep a minimum angle, more angle, more bend is actually impossible. So I think that's so huge. Is start easy, start with a really long line, start with a minimal crossing, and then you're working in the right way and working in good balance.
Yes, absolutely. And
the nice thing is
when you do your imaginary lines, you know, you can start, say you have a 20-by-40 arena, you can start by sending a rider or a horse that's new to it onto the center line and take the entire line, for your beginning half passes, when, you know, later you can perhaps do the H to F or M to K, you know, across the whole arena. And then we all know eventually when you have the ultimate collection, the ultimate bend, and you want more crossing, it ends in the Grand Prix, you know, where you can make two lines through the whole, you know, arena, one to each and then back to the other way.
Yeah.
So it's definitely there are steps to it, but really suppleness and bend is key.
Is key. And I think too, angle is always a big question. And so I think it's always good to think, you know, or even lay a pull down. Like if you are coming out and you want to do a half pass, like the line you were saying, from the center line over, you know, there's a line, an imaginary line of where you're going. And so you can even lay a pull down, or, for example, if you're going to...
I've been known to draw with my foot in the sand.
Absolutely.
Draw a line in the sand.
Draw a line in the sand so people can see, okay, this is the line that the horses are going on.
Beforehand on the line.
On the line.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really helpful exercise. Or, you know, you can do that like from the, if you're going to go in your test, like from the corner to the center line. Again, that's perfect. You can even draw a line or lay poles down, however you want to do it, so that you can kind of see from that perspective. Because again, it's easy to, well, sometimes it depends on the horse, but you can go way too sideways, and that's not good for the horses.
It's not better.
Good for their legs. It's not better. It's one of those things you really have to pay attention.
Right.
And then, you know,
lose fluidity.
Exactly. Yeah. Then I always think, okay, you know, the other thing is the use of the inside leg. A lot of, I think, riders, like we've been saying, it's a bending exercise. So a lot of riders don't have the inside leg on. And so the horse...
seat bone, inside leg. Yeah, absolutely.
Inside seat bone. So the horses fly to the side. Or they're like, why can't you know, or if you're coming from a shoulder in or something and you're having trouble controlling that, that's what's happening. Is a lot of times you're not sort of establishing, okay, you're going to bend around my inside leg and my inside seat bone. That's one of the things that
leg. Yeah, inside leg to outside ring still applies.
Very much so. Which is hard concept to think about in the half pass, because you're doing that, but you're going, you know, from the if you just think about it, you're like, well, what do you mean I'm still connected that way because I'm going the opposite direction? And it's like, no, your inside leg is what's sort of helping stabilize that. It's something I happy to think about it because I was teaching a lesson today. I said, whoa, we lost complete control because the rider's inside leg was off. And so it was like, oh, come on, keep that inside leg down. So as I'm teaching the half pass or introducing it, I make sure that my riders understand how important of a segment that is. That's really important.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to. You don't want to end up with the neck bent to the right and the body bent to the left.
Bad. Yes.
Correct.
So,
yes.
Yeah, you have to show the inside bend through the entire horse. And an easy exercise to sort of help think about half pass in the correct way is that you only ride, the travers bend for a couple of strides, and then you turn it back into shoulder in. So helpful ways to adjust the horse that you get back on your inside seat bone or leg yield back in the same direction you just came from, so that you're always pushing the horse from your inside seat bone, inside leg. You don't have to always cross the entire arena or make all the way to the center line with your half passes. Just do a couple of strides, a good section, and then change it up, leg yield or shoulder in back the other way, so that you're sort of you have to maintain suppleness and not collapse on that inside shoulder.
Yeah, and it goes back to that when we're talking about inside leg to outside rein, that again, if I have a rider that doesn't quite get it, I go right back to travers. Because I think in the travers on the wall, it is easier for people to learn to understand how much the inside leg, and the outside rein still connect through that bend, and only when they get that feel do I put them back on the imaginary line. And what you just said, so important. I love these exercises. It's good for riders also to learn to maybe start in a few strides of shoulder 4 feel, so that forward intent says the haunches don't start leading. And one of my favorite exercises, like you just mentioned, one of the variations is the half pass back into leg yield, or half pass back into shoulder 4, into half pass into shoulder 4. Like 3-4 strides of half pass into shoulder 4, until you have actually a correct shoulder 4. And it's so funny when you have someone doing that for the first time, they'll half pass, I say shoulder 4, and it takes them the entire rest of the line to get that shoulder 4 correct. And this is a really good sign that you've gone out of balance, and
yes.
So until you're good enough to go 3 strides half pass, 3 strides shoulder 4, 3 strides half pass, 3 strides shoulder 4, that is a really good sign that you and your horse are in sync and in balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Susanne, thank you so much. We're going to, right after this commercial break, we're going to come back and we're going to change our to our judge's hat and talk about half pass from the judge's perspective.
Coach Jen here, host of the Horse Tip Daily Show on the Horse Radio Network. The way consumers interact with the brands they have trusted for years and those they are about to fall in love with for the first time is becoming more and more mobile, literally, and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. Podcasts or internet radio shows like this one combine the new consumer preference for on-demand information and entertainment with the power of niche market audiences. Advertising on the Horse Radio Network podcasts allows you to reach the equestrian consumer using today's preferred on-demand delivery system. It's cost-effective and flexible, able to reinforce your existing marketing and social media strategies. To learn more about advertising on this show or any of the shows on the Horse Radio Network, contact us at 859-951-2022 or you can email us at glenn@horseradionetwork.com. That's Glenn with 2 N's at horseradionetwork.com. Come and join the Horse Radio Network family. You'll enjoy the ride.
Well, we are so happy that our friend Susanne Hamilton, who is a large R judge, stuck around with us, and we're going to continue our discussion on half passes, but now from the judge's perspective. So coming in and thinking third level, that's the first time we're going to see half pass ever in you're going to see it all the way to Grand Prix. So what are some things that we're looking for from the judge's perspective on the half pass?
We're looking for fluidity in the movement. We want a supple, engaged, forward-thinking horse in the correct bend. And so many things can go wrong in the judge's booth when you're watching the half passes. And and a lot depends on where you're sitting from, where you're, if you have problems somewhere, one judge may, if you have two judges, one at C and one at E or B, they're going to see different things. When I sit at C, the things I see from the front often is haunches will be trailing, through lack of bend in the rib cage. Haunches will be leading because, people get excited and start using the outside leg before sending the horse in the right direction. I see a lot of times what we talked about earlier, leg yield was just some pole flexion. I see horses that go way to sideways, then that is usually a sure sign that they're lacking forward. Some horses tilt their head. When I sit at E or B, the things I see is more than from the front is, say, if I have loss of impulsion, lack of engagement. I see more of the connection problems. I see if a horse goes behind the vertical from the side a lot better than I do from the front. Other mistakes that can happen is, error in rhythm. Your horse might misunderstand your aid, your outside leg going back and start cantering. All of those things can happen. So anytime the half pass starts, I'm always crossing my fingers and toes that'll be a good one.
I do that too when I'm riding.
Yeah, and coaching.
Well, you're supposed to ride if you're riding, not crossing things,
Sometimes I forget. So tell us a little bit, because you mentioned about pole tilting, and we didn't really cover that in the training segment. So, you're talking about a head that's sort of a little bit unlevel. How do we, how much of a mistake is that? How do we correct that? What are we talking about with that unlevel?
Well, the problem, if you have a problem tilting, it's usually because something else further back is not going the right way. You have, if your horse is tilting, it's putting more, either trying to get away from, pressure in the bit on one side or the other, but maybe because somewhere between the ears and the tail, there's a lock. And, I think when you have that problem of tilting, the thing to go back to is to just really get more suppleness through the rib cage, through circles, shoulder ends, travers, renvers, until the horse can evenly, sometimes it's just a matter of strength, and they, I think that, if the horse is even in both reins, because the purpose of the whole half pass is that the horse is even on both sides, improving the collection by increased engagement. And if you lack any of that, something like tilting can occur.
And so if you see the tilt, what happens to your score? Is it a modifier?
Oh, my score, it'll go down a little.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have an 8 for a half pass in the shoulder freedom and impulsion, and it'll go down to 7. If it was a 6 in the first place, it doesn't help. I don't.
Right.
Tilting's not. It's really hard to sit here and say, when a horse does this, it's such and such a score, because you still have a baseline. You still have a horse. I mean, you have someone comes in that is so stiff, they're having a hard time bending anything, and they're having mincy steps, and then everything they do, it just piles on. You have someone that comes in, and it's this big, beautiful, swingy mover with nice engagement, and then suddenly they get a little tight and they tilt a little bit, and then they come back to it. You have to weigh it.
Yeah.
In the end, you have to weigh it. Definitely tilting. Tilting is not. It's not something you want. It means that something's wrong with your bend.
Sure. And that makes sense. When I think of a half pass or I'm riding half pass, I think of Stefan Peters horses. They're like spiders sideways. You're like, oh my gosh,
right?
How does he do that? But I think that's, for me, the visual of like a 10 half pass. I don't know if I'm sure he gets some 10s, because they're just his half passes on Ravel were just, okay, that's the way you want to do it. And I think that's important as we go through and think about it. You want to have a half pass like Stefan Peters, where the horse is reaching, and I mean, it's unbelievable.
I always liked Rusty. Yeah. Rusty had awesome.
Rusty had also awesome half passes.
Isabel Worth's horses did, and Charlotte. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, and you think of that as you're riding.
Yeah, sorry. I think part of that beauty is that the horses look very adjustable. Like with just a little tweak, they could come back and be more passagey and a little bit of seat, and they would go out bigger into something that looks like, an extended trot half passes. These are the best half passes for me, because they're totally rideable. They're totally elastic. I think I see, quite a few horses that make nice half passes, but they're not adjustable at all, right? They just are boom, 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 boom.
Right.
They're, but you see this with the best riders in the world, is that they're riding everything a little forward, a little back. They could ride those half passes with more shoulder expression, and then more hind leg engagement, and I think that's, when I'm training half passes, that's what I'm thinking about, and that's what I want to show a judge, is that I come in, maybe I start my half pass with a little bit more collected, then maybe I'll push it out a little bit, and then maybe I'll come back to more back towards more collection. Yes. Because I want to show adjustability in my rides, and I think, everybody can appreciate how that looks, including the judges. So I think, that's my other thing. And the other thing I was going to ask you about is, what about horses that will become irregular in the diagonal line?
Well, that's unfortunate. That's a big mistake too.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Is that a bell ring? I mean, because we see it and not a lot of judges.
Oh, no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because that could just be the result of tension. You can't ding a horse out for tension. If the same horse goes a straight line and it's got a rhythm problem, and that a consistent one, then the bell will ring. But in a half pass, it can just be a sign of tension. And then you have to score in accordance to that. You can say tension or, rhythm problem. If rhythm problem as in my horse starts cantering, that's losing rhythm right there. And then I'll say lost rhythm, started to canter and went back to the trot, lost rhythm. Enough said. You don't have to explain to them that their horse cantered. They know that. But really what happened, it's lost its rhythm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you see a slight unevenness, you definitely have to address that on your score. But again, you go by what comes in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, and then another question. Sorry, I got all these judges' questions because I don't get to talk to judges a whole lot.
Yeah, we don't do judge. Yeah.
So what about you're creating a third level freestyle? What about people who maybe will take a very steep half pass line in the third level for freestyle? I mean, do you look well upon that, or do we prefer to see a longer line? Obviously you want to show the best half pass that you got, but what do you think about that?
I think there you have it. I'm actually not a huge one to ask on that, because we at my level at the large R, we don't get to judge a lot of freestyles, and we are always looking for better education, and that's actually not a question that sort of come up, but I would say if you go out and you say, boy, I'm going to make the hardest, steepest half pass that I can make, and then in the end you lose all your forward intent and you lose your fluidity, and the horse isn't able to, to engage, or it's getting flat, because then that hurts you right then.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't help. It doesn't help your
I don't think that there's any rules about it, but it doesn't. I mean, it wouldn't help you. If you're going to do a half pass in the third level and your horse is good at it, show me the best one you can make. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And while you're asking, I better look that all up. But I think it's pretty much your choice where you put it.
Yeah, I think it's your choice.
It is. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I think you're right. It is. And agreed. If it's good, highlight it. If it's not, do the minimum requirement and go to something.
And definitely don't make it steeper, because then you got the sideways thing.
Yeah. And that's always good to think about. Each level has how steep the half pass should be, and it increases as you go from third level to fourth level to Prix St. George, and all the way up to Grand Prix.
Right.
So that's what you have to think about is, going back to sort of that imaginary line we talked about in the beginning, on the trainer side, that is what the judges are looking for, at least, not a judge, but
what really helps you for fluidity is if you're managing, in your half pass, say you come around the corner and you ride your half pass, it's really, really preferable and for the fluidity if you can manage to take that very first step sideways with the inside foreleg, and instead of any of the others.
Yeah,
just one step over, and then you have your line.
Yeah
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Susanna, thank you so much for coming on and dissecting half pass for us. It's such a beautiful movement to watch, and
I love my half pass.
Yes.
There's one more small thing that I should just say, because we've just jumped right into the trot, and then we, when Phil, you were earlier saying about passage, and we can't forget that the half passes are performed at the collected trot, the collected canter, and the passage. So, and there, I think what you see when these really world-class people go ride their half passes and they get that accordion effect, where they can really bring them back and really ride them out, and really, it's such a beautiful thing to watch. And I always, I taught a long clinic yesterday. There's several people. I like to bring it back, and I like to take it out. Really make the most of transition within the gates in your half passes. Once you're able to do the half passes, transitions within the gates, and so that you make that a flexible movement.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. It's performed also in canter, and then you have the canter zigzags. I mean, there's lots of elements to half passes. It's a huge portion of what we do. So no, right. I agree. And a great point. We could spend 2 days on this. It's such a big topic, but no, you're absolutely right. So, well, thank you so much for your time tonight. And how can our listeners find you online?
I have a website, crystalspringfarm.net. I'm not hard to find.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time tonight.
You bet. Good night.
Well, tonight we are so happy to have Karen Isberg, president of Kentucky Performance Products, back on the show. Karen, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you. It's always so nice to be with you and Philip, Reese.
We love it. Well, it was so fun last weekend. You came over to the farm and we had a fantastic clinic with Jessica Ranshausen. So I was able to actually see you in person. and see your awesome horses. And I don't know if everybody knows about the horses. I'm springing this on you, but can you tell us about Leo and Dodger?
Oh, well, okay. Well, I think most people that listen to the Horse Radio Network know about Leo because we've been bragging on him for a while. But he's a Danish warm blood that I imported a couple of years ago. He came to this country kind of knowing not much, a little bit of dressage and a little bit of stadium jumping, and he has turned into just a really nice event horse. He loves to jump. He loves Megan Lynn, who is his rider, and he went on this winter to win the CIC 1-star at Red Hills and then to place second at the CCI 1-star in Ocala. So we're really happy and pleased with him. And, we're just continuing on with his education. And then this summer, because, horses are like potato chips. You can't just have one. I ended up buying another upper level horse, and his name is the Dodger. And he's an older horse. He's a 2-star horse. And he's his grandsire is a horse named Cruising. I don't know if you would recognize
That's a
his
famous
name or not.
horse, isn't it?
He's
Very
a famous jumper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we like to tease Dodger because Dodger has like springs in his legs. He's a Connemara cross on a Irish warm blood, and he's not a huge horse, but it's like effortless. He just bounces over the jumps like and so Megan is riding him right now at the 2-star level to get some more experience to get ready for when Leo goes. So we're having a ball.
Oh, I love it.
A lot of fun.
So fun, yeah.
So with that, I don't know if everybody knows that about you, but you really are like the best owner. You're fantastic. And so with that said, we decided today to talk a little bit about how to handle your competition horses supplement-wise and nutritionally when you're on the road. Because it is a very challenging topic for us that are traveling. You guys are all over. We're all over. So what are some strategies we can use?
Well, I think the two main things I think you really want to try to maintain in top condition, I can't talk today, are, your gastrointestinal tract and then your horse's immune system. And what's nice is that those two blend very well together. Like the gastrointestinal tract has a huge impact on the immune system. So if your horse's gut is operating well, then his immune system is operating well. So you can use just a couple of products to make sure that everything is staying balanced and your horse will remain pretty healthy on the road. So it's not too hard to do it.
So what are some strategies to do it?
Well, one of the biggest strategies, as we know, there's been a lot of research done that shows that a horse has a negative immune response when being shipped, that it's very hard on them and it lowers their immune levels. And one of the things that you can give them to increase their immune levels when they're shipping is vitamin E. And we've talked a lot about vitamin E on this show as far as supporting muscle and nerve systems, but it also supports the immune system. So a couple thousand IUs of vitamin E, most performance horses will be on at least that anyway. So you can give that as you're getting ready to leave for the horse show in the liquid form, and that will help kind of bump up their immune system while you're traveling and while you're showing. So with my horses, I use our product Elevate WS, which is a liquid vitamin E, and I give them 6 mLs, which is 3,000 IUs of vitamin E. I start it 3 days before they leave for the show. They have it the whole time they're at the show, and then 3 days after. So that protects muscle as well as immune system when they're showing.
No, vitamin E, is there any chance of overdosing on it or giving too much? I mean, what are we thinking?
You really
about there?
Can't.
Okay.
We have
water
horses
soluble, isn't
that
it?
are on. Yeah, it's water. It's still a fat soluble vitamin, so it's still accumulated in the body, and that is the reason why many of the fat soluble vitamins can become toxic because they're not urinating them away like they are the water soluble vitamins like vitamin C and vitamin D, where you can just eat it, and anything they don't need, they just urinate away. So they are collected in the system, but the research shows us that you can feed 20,000 IUs of vitamin E for months and months and months to horses without any problem. So if you're following the recommendations and the directions on a good product, say like our Elevate product, then you should have no issues with toxicity at all.
Fantastic. And what about, so what do you do with, so you do vitamin E, anything else that you can do kind of to protect both?
Absolutely. So you want to make sure that you're keeping the gut healthy, and you want to make sure you're keeping not only the gut tissues healthy, but also the microorganisms that live in the gut healthy. That's very important. Everybody knows that horses are hind gut fermenters, and there's a whole population of bugs, microbes in there that help the horse break down the fiber that they eat, the hay and the grass. And if those become out of balance, if a lot of them die all at once, then that can cause toxins to leak into the horse's bloodstream, and that's where you'll see a horse that founders. So it's important to keep the pH balance right. And of course, horses that are stressed, they can get ulcers in their stomach if they're not eating consistently or if they're particularly stressed. So you want to use a digestive supplement. Of course, would recommend our Nalox Advanced for that. And that has ingredients in it that buffer the stomach acids and coat the stomach so that when you do have periods where the horse isn't eating at the same time every day that they're used to, or if they're in a trailer and maybe they're not eating their hay as well in the trailer, or you're changing feeds because you're traveling, this product will protect their stomach. And then it also has some probiotics and prebiotics in it that help the hind gut, that keep the acid levels in balance and actually feed the microbes so that they stay healthy. And if you have a healthy digestive tract, of course, your horse eats better. You have less problems with any kind of colic or laminitis or diarrhea from traveling. And then that also helps your horse's immune system.
That makes sense. I myself, awesome. Maybe I'm getting older, but I've tried a probiotic, and it's actually, I feel so much better on so many levels. It's amazing. So I get it, because I started that. I had started it when I was sick, and I just kept going, and I feel lots better. So that makes sense.
And it does make a difference particularly when they're under stress, that you try to, as much as we can when we're on the road, we try to manage our horses the same way we would at home. We try to feed them at the same time. We bring our feed with us. We bring our hay with us. And we try to keep everything as consistent as we can. But as you know, when you're competing, you may have a class, or, you may be stadium jumping at the same time of the afternoon where you're normally feeding your horse.
Right.
So,
well, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to be stadium jumping when I'm.
No, exactly. Right? Yeah, that's you're safe on that route with this crew, but yes,
you may be piaffing or passaging away.
Yes.
Yeah. when normally you would feed your horse, and so the microbes in the horse's gut are very sensitive. And if they're not fed at consistent times, there'll be a certain amount of die-off of these bugs. Then your horse can sustain minor die-offs. But if you get big ones, then that's when you have problems. So if you can support a healthy microbiome in the gut with some supplements, and then, of course, really good management, then you'll find that your horses very rarely have problems even when they're on the road.
And so you do suggest...
Sorry, I just wanted a quick question. I mean, when you have a class, just exactly like you said, when you should be feeding, what are you going to do? Are you going to feed a small amount before and a small amount after? How long before can you give a big meal if your horse eats a lot of grain? Like, what are we doing as far as, just a schedule and graining the horse? What are your recommendations around that? Because you hear no big meals, like 45 minutes after a ride or whatever. So now the schedule is a little bit tough to manage for these show horses.
It is sometimes. And, one thing that I think is good is to feed within a window of time. So, don't feed your horse at 6 o'clock every day. Feed between 5 and 7 every day so that you have a little window of opportunity there for the bugs to experience some change that's just normal. So sometimes, feed it at 5:30, or sometimes feed at 6 or 6:30. And it also gets your horse used to getting fed at different times so they don't get as stressed. Oh my God, at 6 o'clock I have to eat. That's something that you can do just put into that kind of into your management schedule. And also, I agree, you don't want to feed a big heavy meal an hour before your horse goes out. And you don't want to feed them until they're good and cool after you're done with whatever you're doing. So typically that's an hour or so that you have to wait. So you can do that. And most horses will tolerate that. Like I said, most horses will tolerate those changes pretty well, especially if you already have a nice, healthy digestive tract. So the supplements that you're giving are basically helpful in that they help maintain that digestive tract. So when it is challenged, that it responds in a better manner. It's not already in a position where it's stressed and then you're stressing it yet again. So that's the way you need to look at this. This is kind of a maintenance situation. And then, we try to feed them as close as we can to their feeding schedules. And then we make sure that they have hay in front of them all the time. That goes a long way towards keeping the hindgut healthy. And a horse can eat hay up until you take him out of the stall to go out for your ride.
Yeah.
And what about the hay? Like, in an ideal world, obviously we could all travel with the same hay, but sometimes that's not a reality. How does that work?
Well, what the research shows is that the first week that you're making a hay change is the most critical week. That's when, if you're going to have a colic or if you're going to have an issue, that's when it is. So if you can if it's possible, and it's not always possible, but if you can bring enough hay so that if you're going to be getting new hay, you can make that change over 4, 5, 6 days. So you start feeding a flake of the new hay and a couple of flakes of your old hay. And you do that for a day or two, and then you put in 2 flakes and 1 flake, and you just switch it slowly. Then there's a lot less of a chance that your horse will have problems with it.
Got it.
And being consistent. If you're feeding grass hay, you want to feed them grass hay when, the grass hay that you get, when it's new, when you're getting new hay, you want to get grass hay again. You don't want to go from grass hay to alfalfa. If you're making that kind of change, and sometimes you have no choice, then you need to lengthen that period of switch over to more like 2 weeks, because those are very different nutrient sources for those bugs to handle.
That makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know. I was like the window. I was like, I may have to work in the window tomorrow morning here in the barn. We'll see. My kiddos would not be happy. Well, Karen,
this is the same thing when you get a new load of feed or hay in your barn, you should follow the same kind of schedule. You shouldn't just use up all your old hay and then start throwing that new hay in. You should switch your horses over if you can. If you have that opportunity, it's better for them.
Yeah, that's really
Mix it up. Yeah, very good.
Makes it. Well, Karen, as always, thank you so much for coming on the program. How would our listeners find you online?
They can go to kppusa.com. They can go to our Facebook page, Kentucky Performance Products, and there's phone numbers on the Facebook page, and you can call us Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We're happy to answer any questions. Or that if you have a question, you can always get on Facebook and leave a message there, because we look at that kind of 24/7.
I hear I need to get on the mailing list, on the email list.
Yes, the
newsletter that you guys put out. That it's really great.
We put out a monthly newsletter called the Nutritional Minute, and we called it the Nutritional Minute because we know how busy all these horse people are, and that they want to just look, have a quick minute to look at something, and you can subscribe to that by going to the website, and there's a link on the website.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, tonight for the Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week, we have been doing this. Jen has been surprising Phil and I on air. We do not know this tip. So it's kind of a little, it's like our little game, a little Jeopardy or something. So Jen, what is our Total Saddle Fit trainer tip topic?
Well, it's a little bit like Truth or Dare, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's kind of fun. We like it. Phil and I kind of like it. We don't prepare at all for this.
It's a challenge, right?
You never know.
We've been doing this for 5 years. We're pretty good at doing answering the questions and stuff, and so we just kind of do it blind.
This is we were just riders thinking on their feet.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Hey, Jen, please ask this of Reese and Philip. I have my first dressage show ever coming up in 1 month, and I'm a little confused about the salute. How should the salute be done? I've seen everything from a quick nod to a dramatic, in capital letters, sweeping bow. Is the salute part of my score? In other words, will I get dinged if I mess it up? And what do you do with your whip while you're saluting? Thanks a bunch, Marianne.
This is a great question. It's kind of, we're all kind of giggling, chuckling here as we listen to it, because we have seen many iterations of the salute, and it's not really covered all that well because it is not part of the score. Except for the one topic that you brought up is the whip. The whip must be in your non-saluting hand. So that's covered in the rules, and you'll get a comment and maybe a 0.5 deduction for saluting with the whip. So I think the salute can be with either hand. You can do it with the left or the right. It's more of just dropping the hand to your side, straight elbow, and a nod with your head. So previously, it's been a little bit more complicated for guys riding in the FEI ring, because if you have a hat, you have to take the hat. Had to take the hat off and salute with it, but most of us we don't have to deal with that anymore, so that's kind of okay. Any other things about the salute?
Yeah, I think that's right. Make sure you put your whip. I personally am right-handed, so I salute with my right hand. So, and a lot of times when I show, I'll go ahead and keep my whip in my right hand. So when I halt, and I practice this, and we will cover halting later this summer. But I halt and I put my whip in my left hand and the reins. So you have to practice this a little bit. I put my right hand down, bring my head down, bring my head up, and I gather my reins and my whip with my right hand. So it's hand, head down, head up, bring your hand back to the reins. And I say, personally, take your time. So I'm not in the dramatic bow category necessarily, but I also, if ideally you've practiced this, and this is very important when we practice tests, we always have people practice the center lines and salute, because it's easy to forget it. And if you forget it, you will get a deduction.
Ouch.
A lot of people no drop of the salute. And the other thing is, unless you're in the military, it's not a military salute, so you are not bringing your hand to your forehead.
That's right.
So we see that once in a while with and it's okay to watch a few riders and to do it, or you can Google it on YouTube or whatever to see some salutes if you're still not sure. But it's just simple hand down, head nod. Don't scare your horse by whipping your hand real quick down by their side or whatever. And once in a while with a nervous horse, I sometimes as I pick up the reins, I'm going to give him a little scratch on the wither or a little pat with my hand, because you're not going to get deduction for any of that, sort of stuff, because you're just calming the horse a little bit. So, you might see a little bit of that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I learned something new. I didn't know you were allowed to salute with either hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Most people salute
just see it with right hand almost 90% of the time because of right-handed people. But there's no rule about left hand, right hand.
Well, how about that? I learned something. Well, thank you for writing in, Marianne, because I didn't know that before. Ta-da!
Yay! Well, thank you, Marianne. That's awesome.
This tip was brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, the shoulder relief girth that Reese and Philip both love. And here's why.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the shoulder relief girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The shoulder relief girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your shoulder relief girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, as always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
The best way to find or get in touch with me is on Facebook, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a good show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we can't wait to talk to you next week.